Right, OMG here. Today I'll be starting a new series on my channel called Review the Game Reviews, the basic premise of which is that I will take a game review from the internet and make my own comments and or appraisals of said review. Now, many people, including myself, who have any kind of care or interest for games, disagree with what game reviewers for the most part say. And that's why, basically, I'm making this series. However, this first installment will be on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So I cannot promise I will be fair and even-handed. Now, the reason this isn't on Black Ops 2 is because while I was idiotic enough to buy Modern Warfare 3, I wasn't idiotic enough to buy Black Ops 2. So that's the reason for that. Let's get this underway here. Opening by claiming that people love to hate it, and attempting to explain why it's successful, this review takes an immediate stance on the Call of Duty franchise that I disagree with. And while it is true that I love to hate COD, I can assure you that it is not popular because of a flair for visual spectacle in its single player. And while its multiplayer is addictive for some, even this isn't the primary reason COD is successful. But that's something I'm going to get into later. Being the same every goddamn year, the reviewer knows to mention that the games have become formulaic at this point. After a brief criticism of the game, it is then stated that it is the best title in the Modern Warfare series. Now firstly, that's not a title to brag about. Modern Warfare 2 was so frustrating it caused many a thing and many a household to be broken. Secondly, it isn't the best title. COD 4 wasn't perfect, but it had more to offer because it was still fresh, and it had fewer for-beginner gimmicks like overpowered death streaks and Commando. Remember that shit? At this point, reference is made to the fact that the game runs on an old engine and performs well despite not being the best around. Now, while I agree with this to some extent, everyone knows that Call of Duty, the online system runs anything but smoothly, and really it should have dedicated servers. Anyway, I quote, "Modern Warfare 3's single-player campaign hits many of the same highs and lows as its predecessors. Few games retain the same crazy roller coaster pace that this does, level after level." Okay, so now I'm going to pose a question to you. A simple question. When was the last time someone said to you, "Man, that Call of Duty campaign, it was so great and so memorable. The characters were well developed and the mechanics fine-tuned"? Now, while I'm sure we all know that guy, for the most part the answer to this is never. The reviewer even goes on to say that the campaign's shooting is responsive. Now, is anybody else getting the feeling that this guy's clutching at straws here? I'm sure that some games don't run as smoothly in the single player, but for the most part this just isn't the case, and the fact that it's being praised tells us that the reviewer is struggling to find praise in the game. So, blah blah blah, more bollocks is said, blah blah blah, something about hardcore players. And then some criticism. I quote again, "Still, Modern Warfare 3's campaign suffers from a run-of-the-mill story," etc. Now, I agree with what is said here, and I must praise this part of the review. However, I also have to move on to the meat and potatoes of both the review and Call of Duty itself. The multiplayer. Straight away, the review calls the multiplayer fantastic, stating that it draws you in with its persistent leveling system and frantic combat. It also goes on to praise the weapon leveling system and weapon proficiencies. Strike packages are also mentioned, as well as the controls and game modes. So, what's my retort, I hear you ask? Every Call of Duty game comes out roughly the same time every year with a new selection of gimmicks to say, hey look, I'm different. But it never is. I'm sorry, 2 of the strike packages from Modern Warfare 3 are just the kill streaks from the previous games that have been separated on arbitrary terms. And the other, which works upon getting perks as you achieve kills or points, is clearly superior, as it inflates the player to a godlike status, and it has become incredibly easy to shoot down kill streaks from the other packages. The weapon leveling system offers very little other than even more grinding, and while I do think the proficiencies are a good idea, weapons in the COD franchise already kill very fast, with very little idle sway and recoil compared to other FPS titles. The game has a good sound system, I will admit, and yes, it can run well. There is an addictive aspect of wanting to do better next round, but ultimately, the reason that Call of Duty is popular is because it's easy. Anyone can play it and do well. It rewards defensive play and punishes aggressive play. With each game in the series, the line between good and bad players is blurred further. This can be seen in something as simple as the map design. Yes, they're grey and they're dull. That's a problem. But the fact of the matter is, the maps also funnel a player into one of 3 corridors and are never the right size to suit gameplay. It's bollocks, I tell you. The review takes the idea that the game is innovative, and this is my biggest criticism of this review. Call of Duty is not fucking innovative. Is innovation several Activision, or Treyarch, or Infinity Ward employees sitting around a table saying, what can we do this time? I know, a kill streak where all of the opposing players lose all of their limbs and have to crawl around the map hoping for a quick release. Shit, dude. Once upon a time, innovation involved brand new ideas that completely changed the face of gaming. At this point, the review goes on to make praise of Spec Ops. Now, I'm not going to make too many comments on this because we're getting quite hot-headed here. But in the Treyarch games you have zombies, which is generally considered, as by me as well, that it's better than Spec Ops, basically. I also think that Spec Ops feels tagged on, because the game mostly focuses on the multiplayer. It's not as good as other survival modes in other games. So really, who gives a damn, right? This review gave Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 a 9 out of 10, and I give this review a 3 out of 10.